Hi everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is my review of The Last to Vanish by Megan Miranda. So as always, I will start with a quick spoiler-free summary of the book, and then I'll go into my thoughts and feelings, which will also be spoiler-free for this review. The Last to Vanish is an adult thriller book. I would say it's actually probably more of a mystery rather than a full-on thriller, and certainly it's not a psychological thriller either. It's focused around a main character called Abby, who moved to this small town which is situated along the Appalachian Trail. She moved there 10 years ago and she is now working as a manager at an inn, which is kind of like a motel resort sort of thing in the town of Cutter's Pass. It's a really outdoorsy area. Obviously it's in the mountains and a lot of hikers and outdoorsy people go and stay there, and they also tend to go missing. There are a few different groups of missing people who have been through Cutter's Pass, and the town is becoming quite well known as the town where everyone disappears. About 20 years before the book takes place, there were a group of hikers who went missing. All of them just vanished one day, and then more recently there has been a woman who has gone missing and a man who have gone missing, both separately, and they were last seen staying at this inn where Abby works. The man's brother comes to stay at the inn and he wants to start looking into what happened because the police seem to have just kind of brushed this whole thing off, and the brother wants to know what's going on, why his brother was perhaps taken or killed or is just missing, and he wants to know why the townspeople are all acting a little bit weird, because why aren't they looking into these disappearances a bit more? It's a bit odd that people keep going missing in this town and no one seems to be acting like it. So on to the review portion of this book. I'm just going to say it outright, I gave this book 5 stars, and that doesn't happen very often with mystery thriller books because I find that it takes a lot to surprise me now because I read so much within this genre, and I do often base my thriller rating on what the twist is like and what the whole mystery and how the mystery builds up and how the mystery is delivered to the reader. And while this book did have a good mystery, I was very intrigued the entire time. The reason I actually gave this book 5 stars was because of the setting. If you can't tell already, I loved the small town setting of Cutter's Pass, which is obviously situated in the mountains. It's cold and gloomy all the time, it rains a lot, gets dark really early, and hikers go there and keep disappearing. So I think that's actually the perfect setting for me to read about. I really enjoy going on walking holidays with my partner. Something about this book, the premise and the setting, just really spoke to me because I was imagining going missing as I was trekking to a waterfall, and the townsfolk who don't necessarily love the tourists coming in. Not that I'm saying that's what happens in this book, but you know, tourist towns in the UK aren't always the most welcoming. I can't remember where I was going with that sentence, but what I believe I was trying to say is that the whole premise and the setting really spoke to me and I really enjoyed it, and that's the reason I gave this book 5 stars, because Megan Miranda did a really good job of making me feel as though I was staying at the inn that Abby was managing and that maybe I would be the next person to go missing, who knows. I think I really need to read more books about kind of survival stories and hiking. I discovered this a little while back that my favourite niche at the moment is like survival thriller, where perhaps a group of friends is going on an adventure and something goes disastrously wrong and they have to try to survive in the wilderness. And that's not really what this book is, but it definitely leans into that sort of vibe with the hikers going missing. So I definitely think that the atmosphere of the book is the most notable aspect of it, and I found it also really interesting that the town had this really tight-knit community that the main character Abby had lived in for 10 years or lived around, but she hadn't really been a part of, and she always felt like the outsider. I'm also from a small village, and I do wonder if people who have moved into it in the past when it was a lot smaller than it is now have felt a similar way, like outsiders and like they're not necessarily welcome, because I think locals do sometimes give off that sort of vibe, and it's always a lot easier to tell that you're getting those vibes from a small town because the people there are much more tight-knit than a larger town that has already expanded and welcomed people in. It also doesn't help that the people who are often moving into these small towns come from bigger cities and they're earning a lot more money than the locals, but I think I'm getting off track here. I really enjoyed reading about Abby's journey, about how she was figuring out how she fit in, how she could potentially fit in the future, what she could do to be welcomed by this community, and then perhaps realizing that she had always been a part of it in the first place. I do have to say that Abby had absolutely no personality whatsoever. I honestly couldn't tell you anything about her other than she had some worries about her place in this small town. She also has a kind of secret background that the author keeps quiet until later on in the book, and I think that probably contributed to her having no personality and being the blandest character I've ever read about. But that doesn't mean I hated her, it just means that I didn't connect with her at all, and I honestly didn't care because I was really invested in the setting the entire time instead of Abby's character. Of course, because it's a mystery book, I do have to talk about the resolutions and the revelations that came about at the end. I think they were good enough. One part of it I definitely called like way earlier on, but I had some details wrong and it did surprise me. There were definitely other bits to the revelations that didn't really come out of nowhere, but they were a bit odd, and I feel like there could have been more build up to them, and I don't think they were necessarily very well fleshed out, but they weren't terrible or anything. I was happy enough. So I think overall I'm mostly here to gush about the atmosphere and the setting because it was really good. I think more thrillers should cover hikers going missing in the mountains or in small towns, because I would be right there sweeping those up. I've definitely discovered my niche with this book and with the others that I read around the same time. This is definitely a lot better than the first Megan Miranda book that I read when she was trying to go into YA, and it wasn't very successful, but now I do want to check out more of her books. So if you have any other Megan Miranda recommendations, let me know in the comments below and tell me which one I should read. The only one I'm not going to reread is Fracture or Fractured. It just wasn't very good. Otherwise, I haven't read any of her others, so it'll be good to know which ones are her best. So thank you so much for watching this review. Let me know if you've read this one or if you're going to in the comments below, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye!